And a very good evening to you, and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101, our midweek edition. I would like to welcome those of you who are joining us from North America. A very good evening to you. Good evening to you if you're coming at us from Brooklyn and Queens. And I know that some of you are coming at us from Jersey City. New Jersey, and I think some of you are going further out into the suburbs. Welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to those of you joining us from Arizona. Increasingly, we are getting viewers from Arizona. Welcome to you. And of course, we can't forget those of you who are coming from the tri-state area there, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Welcome. Lots of friends in the area. I lived there, as you know, for quite a few years, and I still consider Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia as one of my homes. Lots of my relatives, my siblings, my mother, they are there, and so I still consider they're part of my. If you join us from Baltimore, I just realized that some of you do join us from Baltimore, and Baltimore, of course, is just a stone's throw from Washington, D.C. It's part of Maryland, very historic city, historic port city, Black City, Baltimore. I do a program, a radio program there every second Saturday of the month at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3 p.m. on WEAA radio. It's called the Caribbean Political Hour with Dr. David Hines, the Caribbean Political Hour with Dr. David Hines. That program is hosted by Sister Claudette Lindsay. She has been a long-time host of the program, and I join her every second Saturday of the month to do a roundup of politics in the Caribbean Political Hour with Dr. David Hines, every second Saturday in Baltimore, WEAA radio. It's heard in Baltimore. It originates in Baltimore, Morgan State University. And of course, it broadcasted throughout the metropolitan area. So if you're in Washington, D.C. and most of Maryland, you're able to pick it up. So some of you I know do join me. You know, I've been doing that program since 1997. So what? It's 26 years since I've been doing that program. It's that radio program, the Caribbean Political Hour. Welcome to all of you who are joining us from Baltimore, from the tri-state area. Well, they call it the metropolitan area of Washington, D.C. There in the center, Virginia and Maryland, you know, to create Washington, D.C., the federal city, as they call it. They took a piece of land from Virginia and a piece of land from Maryland to create Washington, D.C. And as I like to tell my students, Washington, D.C. itself is a colony of the United States of America because it has a larger population than a few of the states and pay more taxes to the federal government than I think 9 states, but it has no representation in Congress. It has a shadow member of Congress, Eleanor Norton, who has been in that position. She does not have any vote in the House of Representatives. She sits in committees and she votes in committees when the Democrats are in charge of the Congress, but she doesn't have a vote on the floor. When the Republicans take over, as they are now, she loses that vote in the committee. So you have 750,000 people with no representation in the Congress of the United States. I usually ask my students that, you know, where do you have 750,000 Americans who are in effect part of a colony of the United States? And they would tell me all the others, Puerto Rico and so on, but never Washington, D.C. No vote in the House of Representatives, not a vote in the Senate. They have tried so many times to become a state. But if Washington, D.C. were to become a state, because it's a predominantly Democratic area, it would be 2 senators and 1 House of Representative members for the Democratic Party. The Republicans have opposed statehood for Washington, D.C. And of course, to get statehood, you will need a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. So 2/3 votes in the House and 2/3 votes in the Senate. Welcome to Politics 101, just a little bit of American politics there. Our prayers and our concerns and our hearts go out to the people in Turkey and Syria. Oh, what a natural disaster there. And we in the Caribbean know about that only too well. Our sisters and brothers have suffered hurricanes so often, battering our island states. We know of earthquake in other parts. We know Haiti suffered an earthquake in 2010, and we know that devastation that happened there. We know of volcano in Montserrat. So we in the Caribbean know of natural disasters. We in Guyana, we have had floods, the Great Flood, just over a decade ago. So we know what it is to be hit by these natural disasters. And so our hearts, our prayers, our concern go out to the people of Turkey and Syria. It seems as though they're having a harder time in Syria, if you can say there is a harder time. But natural disasters. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening. This evening we are going to be talking about what's happening at GECOM. As you can see from the headline, we say GECOM chair finally backs down. And I hope some of you didn't interpret that to mean GECOM chair finally resigns or from the position. No. But we are talking about that impasse that has been going on there for a few weeks, where they wanted to fill a position to carry out a task that would normally be carried out by the deputy CEO. And they wanted to second somebody who we understand they think is favorable to them to fill that position. The opposition commissioners have been pushing back against it. The chair looked as though she was firmly committed to it. And we had that exchange in the newspapers between Clement Rohi and Vincent Alexander over what's happening there at GECOM. I attempted to get Clement to join the program here. I've not been successful in getting him yet. But Vincent Alexander is here to give us the latest update from GECOM. We understand that the chairman has finally agreed. She has finally agreed that the person, I think it's Mr. Giddens, is no longer going to fill that position. And Vincent will tell us what happened, how that change came about, and so forth. And since we have Vincent Alexander here tonight, we are not going to let him go without talking about what's the latest situation with IPADG. You know, we've been pounding that issue here, the issue of the subvention, which was taken away by this government from IPADG since last year. IPADG has gone to court. We had an update on that last week. And IPADG had a press conference earlier this week, I think it was Monday, and they announced that they have written to the Attorney General on this matter. IPADG is not letting this matter go. They're exploring all possibilities. And that is what we ought to do, you know, when we are dealing with any government. Because governments, by their very nature, are not Sunday school. It's not. They don't act as Sunday school teachers, and so you have to keep going at government all the time, all the time, all the time. And Ipadaji is not letting this issue die, and we are not going to let it die here on Politics 101. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101 on a Monday evening, Tuesday evening, sorry. What am I saying? On a Wednesday evening. I'm so behind. I'm so behind. Today is Wednesday. It's the Wednesday edition of Politics 101. Good evening, Rhonda, coming on at us there from the wonderful village of Den Amstel, Avril, Joan McDonald, Beverly Glen. Welcome to all of you. Deborah Leach, welcome, welcome to you. And I keep saying that I am forever grateful to you, the viewers, because there's no show without you. We have now expanded to a fourth night. On Friday night, we deal strictly with African Guyanese issues, what we call Black Matters. And we had a full house on the first night of that program on Friday night. And we are coming again on Friday coming. So it's our Friday engagement. And we are going to expand to 5 nights per week, because next week, Monday, we're going to resume the WPA program, WPA Groundings. On Monday night, our Monday night edition of Politics One would be WPA Groundings, where the WPA will take the opportunity to speak to you on the issues of the day. So we are expanding. And of course, we have on the weekends our podcast, our cricket podcast on Saturday, and our general podcast, the open word. The open word, I think that term comes from Bertolt Brecht, or Brecht, Brecht, however you want to pronounce it, the poet, the German poet. Why do they fear the open word? Well, my new podcast on Sunday nights, it's the open word, which will be launched this coming Sunday. On those podcasts, we will sit down and talk with people, try to capture history. We have people among us, people like A.U.C. Guyana and Hamilton Green and so on. Well into the 80s and 90s. Guyana is going to be 98 this year. And, you know, we will seek the opportunity to talk with them, about their experiences as part of the Guyanese political landscape. We'll try to talk to artists. Matrimony is coming up, and, you know, our Calypsonians and so on will be doing their thing. We'll see if we catch a few of them to come into the studio and to talk with them. So that's our podcast, the fancy name that they give to these kinds of broadcasts. Podcast, Sunday night, the open word. Why do they fear the open word? We don't know. We don't know why they fear the open word. Yes, we do. We do know why they fear the open word. Because the open word is dangerous if you call yourself a despot, or if we characterize you as a despot. Good evening to the people of Hope Town. Hope Town is not just known for soiree. I said this morning when I was on Brother Kinaki's program, we have to make space always for the instinctive actions of people. We don't on this program, we don't promote beating up people and damaging their property. We don't. But what happened at Hope Town is instructive. It's people's instinctive reaction to the beating that they get every day. The beating that they get every day. Oppie Norton didn't go to Hope Town and tell them what to do. David Hines didn't go tell them what to do. Cameron Ramsey didn't go and tell them what to do. Just as we didn't go and tell PPP friends in Buxton what to do in Buxton. They did it because they were conned by the PPP. The PPP tell them there's going to be a level playing field for them and others. And then they found out there was not a level playing field, and they retaliated. And they dared the PPP, come, bring the police, bring the army. These are PPP friends, or erstwhile friends. We don't know if they are still friends. But you promise these people, be enforcers for us, and we're going to give you a free pass, and then they renege on the pass. Hey. Went into the village shooting up. The tangled web we weave. The tangled web we weave. For the PPP, there is no equal playing field, not for their foes, not for their friends. And those of you who have been hitching yourself to the PPP wagon, that's what they have in store for you. The boys in Buxton could defend themselves. When Kanu went after them, the PPP friends in Buxton have the capacity to defend themselves when Kanu. But those of you who are running behind the PPP and looking for a little handout, will you be able to defend yourself when Kanu or whoever come behind you? Oh, what a tangled web we weave. And then we found out people stopped reading Freddie Kissoon. Vincent would love this because Vincent has had to respond to him so many times. Grenell revealed that from 2018, around the no confidence vote, people stopped reading him, and he was dragging the paper down. Again, Abby Norton didn't go and tell black people stop reading Kissoon, or the Indian people or Amerindian people stop reading him. I didn't tell them stop reading him. Vincent Alexander didn't tell them stop reading. People on their own, in the quiet of their homes, struck a blow for their own freedom by stop reading Freddie Kissoon. And in doing so, they have removed a government mouthpiece from the largest circulated paper without a placard in their hands, without boots on the ground. They did the impossible. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. All right, good evening, all of you, Edward, David, Barbara, Barrington, Margaret, Allison, Andres, Wendy, who's every evening. Welcome to Politics 101. I'm not having fun. I'm just being real. I am just being real. Welcome to Politics 101. Brother Alexander, Vincent Alexander. Good evening to you, my brother. Your volume is not on.
Sorry, good evening to you and all of you viewers.
Thank you very much. When you are writing now to respond to one Frederick Kissoon, you will no longer be writing to Kaichor News. No longer be writing to Kaichor News. You'll have to write somewhere else. He's gone. He's gone because he wanted to defend the indefensible. He wanted to defend the government against the charge of apartheid. And according to him, Grenell asked if he blind, if he don't see, if he want glasses, Any comment on that episode before we move into GECOM?
I must confess I haven't paid that much attention to Freddie Kissoon and that episode. But obviously, Freddie Kissoon had taken a line which must have been detrimental to the paper because the readership are ones who make a paper viable. And if you're going to be spewing propaganda at those people all the time, then they'll give up on you. I think they've done that.
Big lesson to be learned. Big lesson to be learned. Vincent, what's up over there at GECOM? I understand that the young man who was being seconded to carry out a task that is normally being carried out by the deputy CEO, in the absence of a deputy CEO, which they're playing games with, and that the PPP commissioners want is this person. The chair apparently was supporting it. Then we understand that she has backed down. Bring us up to date.
Yeah, she has backed down. I can't give you the reason. I can tell you what she said. You know, she's one who normally would give what she calls a ruling. And so when we asked her what was the disposition, since she had promised a ruling on Tuesday, she said, I have listened to all this matter and I have decided to rescind the appointment on the 8th of February. That's today. So she gave the announcement yesterday and the appointment was rescinded as of today. So that's simply what she did. And also said that we will be moving towards the recruitment of the DCU, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer, because we've been calling for that. That position was advertised over a year ago, and they've been dragging their feet on that, with intent as far as I'm concerned, because they were trying to get the young man to accumulate the experience to make his appointment transparent. We're not sure what he was trying to do, but certainly it can be transparent because he has not accumulated the required period of experience. Now, so she also indicated that we will work towards appointing the DCU. In that regard, it's 3 weeks now since Commissioner Roy has been requested to do his shortlist. We had previously done a shortlist, but the person who did the shortlist previously would have been the late Commissioner Bibi Shadiq. And since he replaced her, the chairman decided he should have an opportunity to do his own shortlisting. He promised that he would have given us that by last Friday. And by Tuesday, he had not done so and said that he was busy and occupied and couldn't do it. And promised that he would do it subsequently. Now, I don't know what that means, and we did express the view, we don't know what subsequently means, but he did not give a deadline in that regard. So we're still awaiting his shortlist so we can get on with the process of interviewing and appointing a Deputy Chief Elections Officer, a position that is key to the conduct of the affairs of GECOM and specifically key to the conduct of local government elections. So that's where we're at in that regard. But I would say that at the last meeting, a number of things happened. That announcement was but one of the things that happened. Another major thing that happened was that a plan was brought, yet another plan, probably the 7th or 8th plan, for the conduct of government elections. And what is important to note about this plan was that, notwithstanding all of the arguments over the months about the correctness of what they had done in relation to the manner in which the list was prepared for claims and objections, a matter which the APNU brought to court. They have now put into that plan the process that we have argued all along that should be followed. That is, the list should be extracted by constituencies, and persons should be allowed a claims and objections exercise in relation to constituencies. That is now in the plan and is due to commence shortly. Unfortunately, only a short period of approximately 7 days will be given for the exercise, but it is the exercise that they should have done all along that took us to court, that Roy and others argued could pass muster, but now the CEO has presented a plan that includes the exercise that was being called for and the matter that ended up in the court. So we're now going to have that exercise. We are, however, concerned that notwithstanding the fact that they will do that exercise, that the constituencies which will be used, there are 19 affected areas that will be done in keeping with the attempt of the minister to draw boundaries. What has happened is that GECOM has persisted in not carrying out a proper exercise of demarcation. They have not, in fact, gone to their own points of reference, their own precedents, their own practice to use population, geography properly defined, and community as the three criteria for the demarcation of boundaries. And they have not used the process which required the involvement of the political parties on one hand, and a sit down after a review on the ground to discuss and come to a consensus. That has not occurred. And they are proceeding with the boundaries that were initially stipulated by the minister. So we have that problem. And so the commissioners who were nominated by the present opposition did not vote for the plan. We still have a list that is flawed, a list with which elections should not be held. And so we couldn't approve a plan based on that list. Two, we have boundaries which are clear attempt at gerrymandering, and that can be proven because when the stats come out, you will see that in every instance where they have changed extant boundaries, the changes represents, on one hand, either a split of an area where the PVP dominated to get 2 seats out of that dominated area, or a combination of an area, combination of areas where the APNU dominated to get 1 seat out of that area. So they have contracted and expanded in the attempt to gerrymander, and we certainly can be supporting that. So we have declined to support the boundaries that they will now be using for constituencies and will be using for claims and objections. It's also interesting to note that we had received a second proposal from a second provider in relation to biometrics. And so biometrics came back up for discussion. In those discussions, we suggested that what GECOM should be doing is indicating to those providers that at the time when we were doing the feasibility, which we had agreed should be done, at that time, we will speak with them to interrogate them on what they can provide. Not to engage them, not to procure their service, not at that stage, but to simply find out what you have to offer against the background of the feasibility which we're doing. The PEP commissioners have contended that there's no indication that we want to use biometrics. Now, that is patently false. There's an indication insofar as the chairperson ruled that it is possible to use biometrics as an alternate form of identification at the place of poll. I don't agree with her that she had an alternate form, but that's what she ruled. And we had previously ruled and reaffirmed that there should be a feasibility for the use of biometrics. And now they're saying that there's no indication that GECOM has an interest in that. It should be on the back burner. So we see a persistence in trying to push back on the question of biometrics. Another thing came out of interest when we looked at the plan. And that
Vincent.
had to do with the question of discipline services voting. Discipline services voting. I had observed on previous occasions that when we got to the locations in the hinterland and even in Georgetown, that servicemen, be they members of the army or the police, who were listed to vote in a particular place, had been removed, had been posted somewhere else, and therefore were not able to cast their votes. Now, that is tantamount to disenfranchisement. And we've raised the issue that this present plan does not cater for that. How do we overcome that problem? There is a contention that, well, what can we do? GECOM cannot do more than is being done. And that might be true. Suffice to say that if GECOM had done the review of its systems to make recommendations in terms of the RUPA, that is one matter that would have been placed squarely on the table, that there is a flaw in any system which knowingly facilitates disenfranchisement. Unfortunately, GECOM did not seek to review its system and sought to say they had no authority to do so, falsely so, because the review had nothing to do with pronouncing in terms of guilt of anyone. What it had to do was reviewing and perfecting your system. As a consequence of that, we are now going to embrace once again a system that facilitates disenfranchisement of servicemen, which could have been avoided if, for example, in the RUPO, there was a law which says that once the list has been determined, that the force could no longer rotate policemen or soldiers out of the area from which they were listed to vote. But that can still occur, that may still occur, and therefore the system embraces a disenfranchisement of our servicemen for these elections, and if it doesn't change, for other elections. So there are a number of issues that are out there which we ought to be paying attention to in terms of the conduct of a free and fair election.
Vincent Alexander here giving us an update on what's going on at GECOM. 3-card tricking, you know. They give you something with one hand and seek to take away 5 things with the other hand. So they have given in to the sole point of trying to get this guy in position so he can develop the requisite experience to fit the DCO position. They have not been allowed to do that. The chair has backed down. So in a sense, that is a victory for the opposition appointed commissioners. But then they come with a work plan, which according to Mr. Alexander, has so many deficiencies that they have voted against the work plan. So they give you something with one hand and they take 10 things with the other hand. And I think that is what we have heard from Vincent here tonight. Mr. Alexander, is my characterization out of order?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Certainly not. Is there anything else we should know, Vincent, before we go on to our second topic this evening?
Well, another matter that is of some concern to me is if you're going to have claims and objections, you should really have a lot of voter education so that voters could understand that they have the right to object to persons who are not living in constituencies and to have their names removed from the list. This is a peculiarity of the local government system. I have not seen any robust voter education that will ensure that the voters are aware of that. And there's probably one other matter that I should bring to the attention of the voters. I'm trying to rack my brain to remember what that other matter is now, but there's one other matter uh, of concern that should be brought to the voters' attention. And probably I'll get back to that um,
You will
later.
get back to it. But while, since you raised the question of voter education, let me ask you this question. Um, Historically, well, I wouldn't say historic. Let me take back historically. But in a few local government elections that we've seen in recent times, the voter turnout has not been as robust as, let's say, the general election. And that in itself militates against a really participatory democracy because it means that the few people who go to the polls are making decisions for the vast majority of people. And therefore, trying to get people to go to the polls for local government elections is very important, and voter education is an important aspect um, of of getting people to understand the importance of elections. As someone who I would consider an expert in local government, quite apart from voter education, what else should we be doing to get people really tuned in to the importance of local government elections at the NDC level, the regional level, and we hope in the not too distant future at the village level. What else could we be doing now in terms of generating that kind of interest in local government and local democracy?
I don't think there's very much you could do right now for the reason that the task is not merely generating an interest in local government elections. The task is generating an interest in local government.
Here
And the
we go.
manner in which the central government has treated local government does not allow for generating an interest in local government. Because people have voted, they have gotten local governments, and the central government has trampled on those local bodies, irrespective of whether they were dominated by the APNU or by the PPP. The central government has taken upon itself to implant itself where local government should be the actor, so that really there's no motivation in Guyana for people to go there and vote, knowing that their vote may count insofar as councillors are appointed, but their vote will not count insofar as they cannot be elected and have not done the work that local government should be doing. So that we have to deal with the fundamental problem. That is, do we really embrace local government? Do we really want to allow the system to work? If it's embraced, if the system works, then people will be motivated. And in that context, voter education will be helpful because voter education will also speak to the question of why vote. If you speak to the question of why vote now, people will probably laugh at you because they know that what you're saying is of no meaning because of what has happened over the years in terms of local government. You know, for example, under the David Granger government, I know they were preparing development plans for the municipalities. Development plans were being prepared, and those plans were being prepared through a consultative process. What has happened to those plans? what has happened to those lands? All about these days, the PVP manifesto. We don't hear about development plans that seek to embrace a wider consultative process than the percentage of people who vote for the PPP and who may not have voted because of a manifesto. So we have a serious problem in terms of governance, the inclusion of local government in the system of governance, and therefore there is little or no reason why people should really take local government serious. Those who take it serious are ones who want to continue the struggle for and to test the waters. But the performance so far in that regard suggests that with this government, there's not much going for local government.
You see why we have to do it.
I recall the other matter which was slipping my attention.
Go right ahead.
And that has to do with the Representation of the People's Act, which now provides for continuous registration, that is, registration between January and May, and between June and November, continuous registration. So that process is ongoing. That process is ongoing. So persons who attain the age of 14 can go register, and the persons over the age of 14, over the age of 18 can also go and be registered. However, we have a parallel process for local government elections. And so if somebody who is now over the age of 18 goes to get registered in the continuous registration process, unless that person is very conscious of what is happening, he will not go to do a claim in the local government arrangement, and therefore can be left out from local government elections, although the qualifying date is the same date of the election. So anyone who becomes 18 on the 22nd of May could be eligible to vote at the local government elections. But those persons who go and get registered now under the registration process, who are already 18 or may become 18 by the May 22nd, there is no provision for them at this point in time. So we see once again that we have passed laws that have deficiencies, that have not taken into consideration all of the elements involved in elections, especially when you have local government elections being run parallel to a continuous registration system. And so, again, for all intents and purposes, you may well have people who are disenfranchised because they would have gone to be registered on registration. Continuous registration has no impact at this time on the local government elections. You have to do a claim in its own right for local government elections. And unless you are very conscious, you may well believe that, well, I've registered and therefore all is well. But all is not well, unless you decide that rather than just being registered in a regular manner, that you want to make a claim, so you avail yourselves to vote in the local government elections.
So there you hear it. There you hear it. If your daughter, your son has attained the age of 18 and is registered, it's not a done deal. He or she still has to make a claim to be able to vote. You heard it here.
In the voting system for local government elections, as a part of a claim in the normal registration.
You have to make a claim to vote in the local government election.
Right. You will be on the register.
So
Not take the national elections, but for the local government elections, unless you decide to come over into the parallel operation that's specific to the local elections, you can be left out.
Man, Vincent, you're hot in me head. What about the normal citizen who going about their business, going to work, coming home, taking care of your children? If you're hot in me head, what are you doing to their head?
I don't
That
think
is why,
that you're hurting. I don't think you're hurting their head. You know, some of them wouldn't even know what is happening. What you're doing is fundamentally disenfranchising them.
yes. And that is why your point about voter education is so critical. Because there's a lot of education you all got to give me to understand this rigmarole story. My goodness. We are supposed to be making voting easy and easier, not more difficult for citizens. God help us. God help us. But remember, God help those who help themselves. Vincent, let's pivot. Ipadaji held a press conference on Monday, um, uh, principally to inform the public that it has written to the Attorney General in pursuit of reinstating the subvention that was taken away. Please fill us in.
Well, first of all, let me say that the press conference, in addition to doing that, was intended to let the public know we haven't gone under.
Good.
That we're resilient, that we're up and running in the current circumstances. We are restructuring, we are reprioritizing, but we are up and running. And a part of that up and running has to do with the fact that having taken the government to court and the judge having expressed concern about an inability for people who have a dispute to talk and resolve the dispute, that we have taken up the challenge and have written to the Attorney General indicating our willingness to talk. And this is not new for us. In 2021, the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports summoned us to a meeting. We attended. The meeting to which he summoned us, he did not attend. He sent his permanent secretary with 3 questions. Not to have a discussion, with 3 questions. The answer is 3 questions. But we took the opportunity there and then to ask her to convey to him our desire to have a conversation. So we've been open to talks since 2021. In 2022, on 3 occasions, we wrote the president expressing our desire to talk. On none of those occasions, we got a response. In 2023, we wrote the minister responsible for housing for a conversation in relation to what's happening in. We got no response. But in keeping with our own resolve, and given what the judge said, we've once again written to the government expressing our willingness to have a conversation. I noted that in the public media, the Attorney General said that they have no problem with the talks. But to date, we have not received a response from them in that regard. So we are here ready and willing to talk. We have our matter in the court. The court is intended to reconvene on the 27th. And so we will take things as they unfold. In any circumstance, the court reconvenes on the 27th. If we have an opportunity of talking before, and depending on what that entails, to go to the court and say we have talked, we have that opportunity. But we are set for the court on the once again, for talks. We look to see how sincere is the Attorney General in his public pronouncement that the government wants to talk. Because you know, at one time, the Vice President Jaglio, in a DPI release, said they were going to release the money to Padaji. That was the first we heard of that, and the last we heard of that. But there was a DPI release that said that, even before the matter was called in court. And we haven't seen any follow through on that. We've seen quite the opposite, with him subsequently saying directly to the public that Padaji should not get the money, though he had a DPI release which said otherwise. I don't know if he's trying to stop us from going to court, but we have gone and we are there, and we will see what happens along the way as we continue to pursue the matter as best as we can.
Vincent Alexander here, bringing us up to date with what's happening with that subvention that was taken away from IPAD G. They have written the Attorney General. He has acknowledged in public that he has seen the note sent to him, the letter sent to him, but no formal contact has been made with IPAD G to date. Vincent, IPAD G continues to do its work despite the subvention being taken away. As you said, part of what the press conference was meant to do was to say that IPAD G is still alive and continuing its work. Give us a sense of how you've been surviving in the absence of this subvention.
Well, we have survived because there are generous donors who have made donations. Given the political culture and political climate, those donors cannot be named publicly, but we have had donors who have made contributions. We've also gone the route of volunteers. And so, for example, our Chief Executive Officer has volunteered to continue the work that she was doing. So she's a volunteer. We are ramping up the volunteer corps. So we have now opened a register of volunteers, trying to get more people to volunteer. We've also shifted in some regards our operation, not away from what we were intended to do, but in a direction that we had not given sufficient emphasis to. And that is, we're going to be doing much more work in terms of consultations and advocacy, the things that affect the people of African descent. When one speaks about recognition, justice, and development, there are a lot of institutional issues that affect people of African descent that requires the action of the state. And so we are going to be carrying out consultations with the people and advocating for policy shifts that will redound to the benefit and not to the detriment of anyone else. For example, we haven't quite got the result we wanted on the question of history being taught in schools, and so we have to continue that campaign. We didn't get quite the result. We haven't gotten the result we wanted in terms of the introduction of village councils. We have to continue that campaign. We haven't got the result we wanted on the decriminalization of marijuana and it being used by the Rastafari for medicinal and ritualistic purposes. So we have to continue that campaign. And there are other areas in which the campaign has to continue. A large such other area also is the question of the manner in which lands are treated, lands which were purchased by our ancestors, which are being taken away through various forms. In some instances, they're being taken away by people applying for prescriptive rights. In other instances, they're being taken away by local government bodies granting authority to the central government to make the use of those lands, not bearing in mind the fact that those lands are ancestral lands, meaning that they were lands acquired, purchased by the ancestors of people of African descent. So there are many areas in which we have to continue our advocacy, and we're also continuing our training, trying to do training which is equivalent to the empowerment of people of African descent. We we noted that Minister Ejil has announced that he's going to train contractors how to prepare themselves to tender. Ipadaji, over the last 2 years, have extended that kind of training to 77 small contractors. We have not had a flash in the pan training. We have engaged them over the period of, on each instance, over the period of 5 to 6 weeks, to give them a thorough training and certification as having acquired the knowledge as to how to go about tendering for contracts. Of course, that is not the end of the deal, because they could tender, and still if the system isn't working, they wouldn't get those contracts. And so on the area of advocacy that is also necessary, is the implementation of the law, which provides for a certain percentage of contracts to go to small contractors. That's another area of advocacy which we have to be involved in.
Vincent, anyone who would like to volunteer or to make a donation to Father G, is there a number that they can call?
Well, they can certainly go to our secretariat, which is located on North Road between Light and Albert Street. They can certainly go to that secretariat and they will be able to make their donation there and to volunteer there as well. So let me get to the donation aspect. You can go there to enter the register of volunteers and you'll be able to know the area of expertise and to enter them into that register. We're also seeking donations on two fronts. We're seeking donations to the general fund with Padaji, but we've also sought specific donations to render assistance to the people of Moko Arcadia. And so far, we have raised over 3,000 US through those donations, and those are special funds for the people of Moko Arcadia. Those funds can be donated through PayPal, but unfortunately, one has to do that either in foreign currency or through use of a credit card. But people can go into Padaji and make cash donations here locally. The PayPal seems to be focusing more on overseas donations.
Yes.
Are welcome to make contributions directly at the Secretariat, which is still open, still functioning from 9 to 4, 9 to 5, sorry, Monday to Thursday, and 9 to 4 on Fridays. Unfortunately, I don't have at my fingertips a number, unfortunately. I'm guilty in that regard, but certainly contact can be made.
Can they go to a website or a Facebook page and get that number? Do you all have a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page, the Padaji Facebook, as well as we have a website. So our website, the Padaji website, as well as the Padaji Facebook page, will provide those numbers.
Okay, so viewers, you can go to the Facebook page and you'll get the numbers there for Ipadaji. Those of you who are overseas and would like to make a donation, hold on. Volunteers can email info@ipadaji.gy. It's on the screen. Those of you who would like to volunteer, you're in Guyana and you would like to volunteer, there is an email. There's an email that you can, I think the email is on the screen. I guess you can make contact with the Prodigy via that email if you would like to make a donation. Thank you very much, Sister Olive, for providing us with that information. So there are options. You can go to the Facebook page and you will get the numbers there. Hold on, hold on. It's coming fast, 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 fast. There is a number here, 223-8852. 223-8852. It's on the screen. It's on the screen there. 223-8852 is a number that you can contact at Prodigy. So they're looking for volunteers, they're looking for general donation, and they're looking for donation for the people of Mocha who were so brutally treated by the government. So yes, the information is here. 223-8852. 8852, or go to the Facebook page of Prodigy or the website, and you'll have more contact information there so that you can volunteer, you can make a contribution to the Prodigy General Fund to keep it going. They don't get the subvention anymore, and you can make a contribution towards the fund that is set up for the people, for the Mocha people who had their homes demolished. So we've got homework to do. I hope you take down the information, the email address, the phone number, and of course you can go to the Facebook page to get in contact with G. They're doing tremendous work. They're not giving up. They like to say, one Indianist commentator said black people gotta learn to ban their belly. Well, the very term ban your belly is we created. That's the irony of it. The very term ban your belly is an African-derived term. And people are telling us that we don't know how to ban we belly. Oh, Lord. Vincent, closing thoughts, message for our people.
Well, I would like, first of all, to acknowledge the efficacy of it, Prodigy. The fact that even as we sit here, the chairperson not having at his fingertips the numbers, didn't have to wait until tomorrow. Our efficacy allows for those numbers to be brought to the nation's attention with immediacy. And I think the public should try to understand from that how it Prodigy operates. We see ourselves as a model organization, an effective and efficient organization. In terms of closing, let me go back. There's tremendous need for voter education, but there's also need for the public to take note of all of the deficiencies in relation to these elections. No biometrics, issues with the list, problems with the claims and objections, parallel systems, continuous registration, claims objections, the problematic issues. And the public should really be paying attention to those matters. In a normal democracy, responsiveness would have made a difference because that's an element of democracy, responsiveness to the cries of the people. Unfortunately, that seemed not to be one of the elements embraced by the current regime. But yet, I think the people should be vocal on these issues. The Prodigy stays alive. The Prodigy is seeking to do the work that's required to make the decade meaningful. And in so doing, we reach out to you because what we're doing is not about us. It's not about some private company. It's about an organization. It's an umbrella for 65 organizations with a bottom-up watch the with the community and with the people, and response to the communities and the people.
Thank you very much, Brother Vincent, and thank you for always coming through. And we call you to report on those two portfolios that you hold, the chairman of IPADG, and it's a non-executive chairman, I may say. So you're not being paid to do that, and your portfolio as commissioner at GECOM, Elections Commissioner. Thank you so very much for coming through tonight. And please, those of you in the audience, please contribute to IPADG. Please make sure you tell them you come from Politics 101. So they need volunteers. They need money for the general fund to keep IPADG going. And they have a fund for the people of Moko. So you can contribute in all three areas. You can contribute in one area. You can contribute in two areas. Tell them Politics 101 sent you, because we have got to keep our institutions going. They want to starve us out of existence. They want to starve us out of existence. But we've got to put our little pennies together and keep our heads above water. We are winning. We are winning because we are human beings. We are winning because we know how to fight. All those centuries on the plantation didn't take the wind out of our sails. We are winning because we know how to win. We are winning because we are a disciplined people. We are winning because we understand resistance in all its dimensions. We are winning. And win we must, because if we don't win, then others will seek to impose the shackle standing on us again. We're not going back there. We're not going back there. And look, we have our political differences. We belong to different political parties. We belong to different religions and different churches. But we come from the same place, on the same ship. Black Stallion, from the same place, on the same ship. So we must pull one common intention for we women and we children. These one people. Our Indian and Chinese and Portuguese brothers, they also came on a ship. We all came on the same ship from the same place. And so we must pull one common intention for we women and we children. When you look at what happened at Moko, you saw the way they treated our women. We must resolve that that should not happen again in our Guyana. We do not, and will not countenance violence. Violence begets violence, and when the place is engulfed in violence, nobody wins. Nobody wins a violent war. Nobody wins a violent war. But there are times when our frustrations boil over, as they did when those people were knocked down on the streets in West Bobby's in Hopetown. Sometimes the emotions boil over, and it's a signal to the government: stop, 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 stop. We are human beings. We have emotions, human emotions. Stop, stop. In the name of God, stop. We come on the same ship, from the same place. and we must pull one common intention for we women and we children. We come in peace as always, and we go in peace until tomorrow night. Then we come back to keep watch, to keep vigil. Burnham used to say, watch with me one more night. I think I get him right there. Watch with me. I'm paraphrasing tonight and saying, we are keeping watch. We keep watch because we don't want man of death to come at night and to trample on our dreams, says Martin Carter. Watch with me one more night. We keep watch here every night because we know what they're up to. And as we are keeping watch, we are creating new spaces of freedom for ourselves. Guyana belongs to all of us. We're not going back to Africa physically. We're not going back to India physically. We want, if we can, to experience Africa in Guyana, Indian in Guyana, Portugal, Madeira in Guyana, China in Guyana. And what about our indigenous people? Guyana belongs to all of us. That is our dream. That is why we keep watch every night. Watch with me one more night, said Forbes Burnham. He said it 60 years ago. 60 years later, I don't think he would be amused as he turns 100 this year that his people are still saying, watch with me one more night. 100 years after the 1823 revolution, the largest enslaved people's revolution in the history of that institution in terms of the number of people who took place. 100 years later, we are still crying, we are still shouting, we are still bawling. Leave us to be full humans. Watch with me